Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen A. Smith here, and I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. And we all know the big event is coming up. We got the big event coming up, and another name for a big event is a big game. And the big game I'm talking about is Christmas. And I have some two champions here because we need champions. You want to win the championship. Offense sells tickets and defense wins championships. And I have two champions here. I have got Brettyoung and Rod Herb from Urban Young. How you boys doing?
Great to be here with you, Stephen A.
Good to see you, Stephen A.
I tell you what, man, I'm glad to have y'all. And y'all are doing so well. I mean, you really are. You're doing so well. You some bad men over there at Urban Young. So tell me about the big game. Tell me about your defense and what you're planning to do this holiday season. What kind of defense can we expect from you guys?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. We've got a holiday party coming up, and it's something we look forward to all year. You try to stay in your space, try to keep an evil head. You work hard all year, you put in the reps, and then at the end of the year, you get a chance to celebrate. But, making sure that you protect the house is going to be super important, especially this time of year.
I love protection. And you guys give the best protection. I mean, you really do. And we're talking about teams. And what's another name for a team? But it's got to be a company. And you guys deal with a lot of companies. What kind of defense can companies get this holiday season to protect themselves and win the championship?
Well, that's a great question, right? So holiday parties are one of those times a year that they end up being, at a restaurant. It could be at an owner's house. It could be at a place, an event center. And a lot of times we don't think about just the insurance coverage that we have. So I know me and the other coaches have been looking at, kind of what policies we have in place, what type of protection is there, specifically just kind of going over, make sure we don't miss stuff. So I know general liability policy is an important one. That's just the basics any business owner should have. I mean, one of the biggest things that we see for as far as exclusions and as far as gaps in coverage, Stephen, is having a premises-only endorsement on your general liability policy. So you could be a restaurant that limits coverage just to the location that's described in the premises, described in the policy. So just those locations could be places that you have coverage. So if it happens outside of that, there's no coverage applicable. So why is that important? If you have an event or you have a holiday party that's at an owner's house or that's at a different restaurant or that's somewhere else, you may think you have coverage and you don't. So I know that's a big one that we look at, one of that we look at for customers to make sure that we have no gaps in coverage. The other one I would say is probably workers' comp. Just making sure that you have the proper workers' comp in place and make sure that it's coded correctly. As far as the class codes are concerned, injuries can derail big games, man. So we just want to make sure that, if we have any injuries, at these events, we want to make sure, we've got coverage.
If there's one thing that I know, and I know you boys know this, it's that injuries derail championships. I mean, they do. They really do. And we can't be having that. We cannot have the injuries, the liability on my team or on my companies. But you mentioned a good thing. You mentioned about parties. And you mentioned about people coming in and out, driving, drinking. And let's be honest, people are going to be drinking this holiday season. I know I am. I'll be drinking a lot. How do you handle that kind of liability? What kind of schemes can we put out there for our teams?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll be drinking this holiday season for sure.
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I mean, we've got offices now. I'll just give you our example because I know a lot of companies are the same way, but we have offices in different places. So we've got Melbourne, we have here in Orlando, St. Pete and Jupiter. So wherever we decide to have the holiday party, which this year I think we've decided it's going to be at my house, but people are going to be traveling, and at the we want to limit the amount of alcohol that people are drinking if at all when they're driving. So what we do obviously is we get hotel rooms for different people and make sure that we have Ubers. But as a backup plan, making sure that you have coverage is, higher non-owned coverage is a big one that we look at. You can purchase that on a business auto policy that you have or a general liability policy that you have, depending on the carrier. But what that does is cover the business for non-company owned vehicles when they're being used for company purposes. So specifically for employees who are using their own autos, God forbid something were to happen, at least you have the coverage in place that if it was a company event and somebody was using their vehicle, you'd have coverage for that.
And let me ask you a question, because we're talking about people slipping defenders trying to get around our teams, but we're talking about defense, and we're talking about special events that the team goes to together. And what is the last line of defense that we could do to protect our teams this holiday season? Rob, can you take that one?
Yeah, man. As Brett said, the GL could have an exclusion to be a premises-only liability policy. So in that case, we recommend a special event policy. Clearly, liability can arise from your event. And if it's not an exclusion, it's included, that's great. But if it is excluded, most venues that you would travel to would require that special event policy anyway. The beautiful thing about special event policies, they're way less expensive than most people think. They start at like $175. Giving you your own independent limits for that event, so that's really a benefit to it. And they're simple to get, quick underwriting. So it's never the barrier to entry on a policy like that is super, super easy.
Yeah, those are good thoughts. It's kind of like that catch-all just in case.
Yeah, and the other thing too is they come with host liquor coverage too. So if you're the host and you're going to be serving liquor that you talk about, they come with host liquor coverage. And then if you wanted to enhance the policy to be a little bit more comprehensive, you could buy dedicated liquor liability coverage that would provide you the coverage in the event that someone, God forbid, had an accident because they were overserved or whatever at the party. So
speaking of overserved and having an accident, one of the biggest things, Stephen, that we look at, especially since we're doing it at my house, is to make sure we got the personal umbrella policy.
Yeah, great point. People
I was going to ask. I want to see what's over the top of everything. If all else fails, who's my shot blocker? Yeah, who protects the paint?
And two, Stephen, though, it doesn't even have to be, Brett, an owner, right? You may be a manager, a director, and you want to have your direct report to your teams at your house. Clearly, everything we just talked about, a general liability policy or a special events liability policy would matter and would apply. But let's just say that it's at your house and something were to happen. You'd want to make sure that as a fail-safe, to just make sure you're super, super protected, a personal umbrella would be the way to go to make sure that if anything wasn't covered by the corporate policies that you would certainly have access to, that you'd have the personal umbrella policy to fall back on.
Yeah, that's great thoughts.
We just had that conversation regarding Brett. We're having the party this year at his house.
You're saying I need to buy more coverage.
I'm saying I'm going to be there, man. And you never know.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you boys what. I have never seen two more polished gentlemen. You're looking good. I see you up there looking good. Got the fireplace in the background. Man. I'm really excited for y'all this holiday season. I think your team can win a championship. And if all else fails, let's be honest, we're talking about some very granular stuff here. And it gets very complicated. At the end of the day, who can people reach out to if they want to learn more about their coverage for this championship?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've got people standing by, would love to help with these questions or fill these needs. But if you're already someone that's looking at this and you have a relationship with your agent, by all means, call them, ask them, at least ask the question, get educated on it, so that you go into these the holiday season, the party season, fully informed and you feel good about where you're at.
Yeah, the way we look at it is we take defense out of defense wins champions, right? So if we can get this right ahead of time, then we can focus on the offense when we're there, have a good time, celebrate, do what that's the reason you have these parties, is to be with people. So the last thing you want to do is worry about if you have coverage, God forbid the things we don't want to think about did occur. So we're gonna do everything we could do to prepare for the game, and then after that, we're just going to do our best.
And Stephen, one thing that you mentioned, man, a little bit ago that I want to kind of circle back on, you talk about celebrating. I was asking, have you had a chance to look at who the coach of the year is in the college football ranks this time of year?
I have. I really have, Rod. I really have. And I'll tell you something. I saw Jim Harbaugh won Coach of the Year. Michigan's in the top 4. I know you're excited over there. I know you're excited. Who's number 1, though? Who's number 1?
I mean, I know. Alabama
and Nick Saban is a bad man. And we're looking forward to it. But listen, we are out of time. I appreciate you boys. You gave us a lot of information. And if anybody wants to get in touch, they know where to find you. And Merry Christmas to the both of you. Love you, boys.
Thank you, Stephen A.
Thanks, buddy. Merry Christmas.